Okay. I did have a cuppa. I drank it. It's fine.
So Joe just went
We're
off
all
to make
good.
me one. Joe, I just sent Joe off. He's making me another cuppa.
Love that.
All right. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being my very first guest on the Jennnnaaayy show. And yeah, I want to know how you do everything. You are an entrepreneur, you are a mum, you are a content creator, you're a businesswoman, plus other things I probably haven't got listed. Oh, and a fucking amazing wife. Like, thank you, darling. How do you do all of that?
I don't know that I do. Well, straight up, if one part of my life is doing well, another part of my life struggles a little bit. I always tell people that I'm a plate juggler. Every now and again, I drop a plate.
I feel
It
that.
happens. So sometimes that means my house looks like an absolute dog's breakfast. Like at the moment, it's pretty rank. It's pretty rank. I'm just going to let it go. And when the boys go back to school and daycare tomorrow, I'll do like a 2-hour power clean and get it done. But then when I'm doing that power clean, it means I'm not making my content. I'm not in my business. I'm not doing those things. I've probably dropped the ball most as a wife, if I'm really honest. Because I think the taking time for yourself and your partner is one of those things that I think falls by the wayside the easiest, because you're like, well, they're always going to be there. And Hayden and I are like, we're a really good team in that he just knows not to give me pressure. Like his love language is touch, and I've had to learn to allow him to touch me sometimes.
It's hard enough though. Like, you've got two little ones. Like,
Mm.
trying to balance being a mum to young kids and keep that balance with your partner is already a big struggle on its own without all that extra stuff on top of it though. Like, trying to find that romance and, run off and have the quickie and do whatever you got to do to keep that little spark
Yeah.
alive, keep everyone happy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. I think, I mean, I'd be lying if I said that the bedroom stuff was amazing right now, because like we're just really busy. I think what works in our favor is that Hayden works a roster that means he sometimes gets days off during the week. And so I can be more flexible in the work that I do, where we take ourselves out to lunch. So like even though there's other like grown up boring things that we have to do in that time, and he gets on days off and he's like, "You're never home," and I'm like, "I know, I do stuff." Like, did you not know? But we do make time. So like tomorrow we have to go shopping. We want to get Christmas and Charlie's birthday presents sorted. So tomorrow that's on our list, and we've told ourselves that that's our job. And once that job's done, we're going to go get dumplings, and that's our little dumpling date. Yeah, we do little things like that, but we have to. But we've got to schedule that, and we've both had to learn to be conscious when we start to drift apart, because you just start running on autopilot, and sometimes it feels like your ship's in the night, especially with his shift work, because sometimes he's coming home just as I'm getting the kids out the door to go to school, or he's left for work before I've even got everyone up in the mornings, and he's coming home just as the kids are getting ready to go to bed. So he comes home when he's on a day shift. He comes home when we're at our house is at its most hectic and most chaotic. And I think anyone with young children knows that 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock is just like pure survival mode. Not a lot goes on besides just surviving and getting through to bedtime. And that couple of hours in the morning between getting up and getting out the door is also really hectic. And sometimes we go through periods of weeks at a time where that's the only time we get to see each other.
oh, I remember that. Joe and I used to be like passing ships in the night when he did shift work. So he'd be coming off on night shift and he would race home to try and be home before Sam and I would be driving out the driveway. I remember him telling me heaps of times that he'd have the worst day because he would just get home and see us right. And I'd wait for as long as I could and then be like, if I don't leave now, I'm going to get stuck in traffic. I've got to be at work on time. And yeah, and then it's only, you see each other. But yeah, it was hard, and I completely understand. I get it. And for anyone who's part of like shift work, it's fucked.
It is. I think that's the only real way to explain it, is that it's a bit fucked. We tell ourselves that it's not forever. We won't always be in the trenches with young children, and some days that's what gets us through, because when everything's piling up around us and the house looks like a bomb hit it, and I'm going, Babe, I haven't been down into the office for 3 days. I've got orders piling up. I've got to go. I've got to have a couple of hours. And he's going, well, shit, I've had a really crap day at work. I need some time to debrief with my wife. And I'm going, sorry, like we know those moments happen. And it's really important for us to step back and be like, all right, well, it's a bit shit right now. We know this is not forever. What can we do to keep ourselves connected at the moment? So, yeah, it's something and we don't get it right all the time. Of course, we bicker. Like, I think a lot of people with young children can relate to bickering, and it's not really whatever it is you're bickering about. It's never about that. It's about I'm saying I feel like I'm doing everything because you're always at work, and I feel like it's all been dumped on me to make sure this family stays afloat. And he's saying I feel burnt out and I feel like I never get to connect with my wife because my wife's always in a crabby mood because she's burnt out. And we know that the bickering is not about the dishes. It's not really about the dishes. It's about us feeling disconnected and needing to reconnect and struggling to find a way to do that. And for some people, me, sometimes picking a fight is the best way to get that connection and be like, hey, I'm right here. And we've had to identify that. And I think therapy has helped a lot with that one. I identify when I'm trying to pick a fight and I go, whew, it's actually not about you. What's actually happening here is I'm exhausted and I just need a break and I can't give everything to everyone. And yeah.
It only takes that little thing for you to like snap, like it just,
Yeah.
and it's just, and then, but sometimes it's just because and it can be that I'm not going to say anything. It's fine. Look, it doesn't worry me. And then all this shit starts to pile up to the point where the kettle's boiled and she's going to overflow. You've got to,
Yeah.
and you're right. But the fact that you can know that, okay, it's take a minute, check yourself, that in itself is hard. And that takes a lot of
Yeah.
work to get yourself to that point where you can identify that too.
Oh, and it's been work. I can tell you right now, it's been work. It's been sitting there in the office with my therapist, and I'm like, why am I so angry at him? I know he's a good dad. He's the most engaged dad. Like, compared to my dad, Hayden is like, and my dad was good, you know what I mean? And yet I look at like Hayden, he's so great. And why am I so mad at him? And having to work through that with my therapist. And it's like, well, it might not actually be about Hayden. It might be about the fact that I, as a mother, have gone, this is so much harder than I thought it would be. And I thought I knew it was going to be hard, but I was never prepared for just how exhausted I would feel. And I was never prepared for just how touched out I would constantly feel. And I was never prepared for how many dishes there are. And I was not prepared for the fact that, going from a family of 3 to 4 suddenly meant 62 extra loads of laundry. I still can't work that out. The math isn't nothing. And sometimes I think like I hate that my life revolves around just get another load of laundry done and just get some dishes done. And I just want to clean the house. I just need to reset because I am also a person who feels really anxious in mess. And like I've got 2 kids. Our house is messy. It is lived in and it is impossible to keep it tidy because children don't give a fuck.
No.
And it's not that they're bad kids. They're just kids because kids make mess. And one of the things I really want to do as a mum is I don't ever want my children. I remember growing up and my dad would rage clean. And I think a lot of people will identify with the term rage clean. And it would be
I do
like
that
he
one
would just
thing
crack it.
sometimes.
Yeah, like he would just crack it and he would just clean aggressively throughout the house. And no one was allowed to help because we
Mm.
didn't do it right, but also no fucking asshole helps me in this house. Blah, blah, blah. So like I never wanted to do that to my children because I remember feeling like walking on eggshells around my dad all the time. And I know that was not the intention, but that was certainly the outcome. And so I've never wanted to do that around my kids. So when I feel the house getting messy and I feel myself getting stressed, I will say, oh, sorry guys, mummy gets stressed in mess. So mum's going to take a few minutes to pick up a few toys. Do you guys want to help? And I always give them the option to help because I don't want them growing up feeling like cleaning is a chore or a punishment. And I feel like if we have open conversations about why we need to clean and why it's a good idea to help each other, I feel like they're going to grow up to be the kind of people who are good partners who don't expect their partners to carry all the mental load or carry all the domestic load or anything like that. So that's what I'm trying to achieve. Fuck knows if I'm doing it right, but
That's good. Well, we're the same with Sam. Like Sam's 16, and it's the same thing with him. He has certain jobs and like he likes to mow the lawn. He mows the lawn. He takes the bins out. He feeds the dogs. He checks the chooks and collects the eggs. So everyone has, and I just say to him, it's part of the household working is that everyone has a part to play. So
Yep.
everyone's got something they have to do. It's not so much a chore or a job. It's just that this is what helps our household function. So this is all the things that we need to do to get this done. We're going to allocate them. You're going to do this. Dad does this. I do this, and we make it
Yeah.
work. So I think that
Yeah.
I really like that it's not. Don't try to make it sound like it's a chore, because as soon as you sort of put that on them, it's something that they will try to avoid like the plague. So
Yes.
I think that's important, definitely.
Yeah. Well, like we grew up in our house, chores were a punishment.
Mm.
And so and it's weird too because my dad was like hyper fixated on having a clean house. Like everything had to be tidy, but he would rage clean, which was always really uncomfortable for everyone. And then my mum, on the other hand, was a hoarder, still is. So my mum just had clutter everywhere. So to me, clutter is really stressful. And I think it's because it reminds me of a household where mum and dad were at odds with how the house was going to look. And there was always this underlying tension between dad having the shits with mum and mum being like, don't touch my shit. And so clutter for me just automatically raises my stress levels, whether I want it to or not. And having to work, like, it's weird to you think you got to work through with your therapist why the doom basket on the top of the microwave is such a trigger for you. Like, why did I flip out over a basket of junk? Like, thank God for therapy, but my God.
What is it we said yesterday? That I go to therapy so that my kids don't have to.
And we're all in therapy because our parents probably should have gone to therapy.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about your beautiful hair and what you've got coming up and what you're trying to potentially shave it off for. Tell us all about Frocktober.
So Frocktober is an initiative that's put on by the Ovarian Cancer Research Foundation. They raise really vital funds for research in two parts. So they are currently involved in developing and testing early detection methods for ovarian cancer. And that is because the survivability rate is less than 50%. And like that is because a lot of women who are diagnosed with ovarian cancer are diagnosed in such a late stage that even the most aggressive treatments are not successful. And it's a really insidious disease that has a very high recurrence rate. And that is, again, because it's diagnosed so late in a lot of stages. But we have discovered that if we can beat it, if we can find it while it's still at stage 1 or stage 2, more women have their survival rate. I think it was, a girl gave me the statistics on Friday night. I think it's closer to like 85%. And then if you compare it to, say, breast cancer, because we're all very aware of the devastating nature of breast cancer, but that extra awareness and the extra funding that breast cancer receives means that the survivability rate for breast cancer is currently at 92%, which is fantastic. Of course, we want it to be 100. But the survivability rate in comparison is 92. So the other research that they devote a lot of their funding to is in treatments. So they had a lot of feedback from people in the community living with ovarian cancer who were like, we love that you're developing early testing because we don't want anyone to go through what we're going through. But can we look at ways that we can maybe achieve better treatment outcomes? We've been using the same chemotherapy for the last 20 years. Is there something better we could be doing? Are there different types of cancer treatments we could be using? And so, the Frocktober initiative was developed to create a month where we're talking about it and we're driving those donations so that they can then release their research grants again. The dress that I'm wearing was the little party dress Frocktober one. And then some people might have seen I designed a print, which I donated to Little Party Dress. Sales from that dress was over $6,000 raised just from that dress, which is fantastic. And it was nice to be a part of something big. It's nice to be a part of something bigger than yourself. But yes, I have said that if I raise 50 grand, I'll lop off my hair.
How do you feel about that? How do you feel?
I don't know how I feel about it, to be totally honest with you, because my hair is an extension of my personality. Mm-hmm. A couple of weeks ago, I would have told you that I didn't think we were going to raise the 50 grand, but we passed 30 grand on Friday night. And so I'm like, oh, wow. Might actually happen now. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I had long hair too. I shaved mine about 6 years ago, and I did that for the world's greatest shave. So my
Yeah,
grandma died of a form of leukemia. So the year after she died, I did that, and it's funny. I couldn't ever picture myself with long hair again now. But I never would have
that's what I'm
thought that I
scared
would ever have
of.
long hair. Yeah.
Yeah, well, a lot of like the one thing I keep thinking is how good would a Townsville summer be with a bald head? Because it's so stinking hot here. And most of summer, I don't wear my hair out because it's so humid, it's so hot, it's just awful. So I'm like, imagine like no hair, like jump in the shower and just like, and you're done. See ya.
Can I just say how iconic you would look though with the shaved head, your glasses, and the big earrings? It'd be fucking
I
stunning.
know. Like I feel like, what if I've got an odd shaped skull though? I do think about that.
It's fine. It's just wear one of those funky bandanas.
I
Right.
will.
You're
And
right.
if I hate my skull, there'll be lots of hats.
Lots of hats. You have some cool hats though. You've got some. I can't wear hats like that. You've got some gorgeous big ones. I've seen on your video.
Yeah, KJH Surf sent me a bunch of hats, which was they're beautiful. And then there's a local Townsville business called Ella Ray Creations who burnt some designs into a hat for me. They actually donated one of the hats for the raffle on Friday night. And then another brand called Hide and Horn did some really beautiful ones for me too. Yeah.
You're right.
So I've got
Well,
this stack of hats. So
well, that's good. You got one for every occasion. Have you got one that matches like all different outfits? So you got
well,
to.
and I've got a colour for every outfit, which is great. So
Now, we've been on TikTok pretty well since COVID because we were all bored and we had nothing to do. Is that your story as well?
I started in the January of 2020, so before COVID, but I was getting in just as we were starting to hear about COVID, and I didn't really think anything of it. And I just made some silly videos, just like things I've learned. And when I watch those videos now, they are
Girls, though.
god awful. They are so awful. Like, you can tell I'm awkward. You can tell I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And I don't even know. I don't even remember why I posted it, but I was just like, whatever. We'll see. Like it'll be what it'll be. Yeah, I look back and they're bloody awful. But then all these people were like, oh, that's so funny. Do another one. And so I did. And then it was like, do another one. And then I don't know if it was during COVID or just before COVID. I did a video and it was like, the way that I act in the car when and this was obviously when I was when I just had one child, the way I act when my son's in the car versus when I'm by myself. And that video suddenly had like several 100,000 views. And for someone who didn't have a big page, I was like, what does that mean? And then I grew all these followers overnight and I was like, do people want to watch this? And then you just keep going and you just keep going. And yeah, before you know it, people are watching you dance every day of the last days of your pregnancy and they're waiting on, bated breath to find out if you've had your baby or not. And they're watching your children grow up and they're watching you go through these things through life. And I feel as though I've shared so much of my life. I've obviously kept certain things private because we have to keep something for ourselves, but I definitely feel as though I've shared so much of my life online, and there are people who have followed that journey for, what are we talking, over 3.5 years, and that blows my mind because I still think every day, like, who cares what I'm doing? I'm so
Right?
boring.
I know. I feel it.
um, yeah, and I take every day as I'm so lucky to be here. And I'm really grateful for every opportunity that like TikTok has given me because everything that I do now came from TikTok. So I can't ever let that slide. And some people will say, "Oh, you're so humble." I'm like, "Well, Jesus, you got to be," because I wouldn't be. None of this would be happening around me if I hadn't just logged on one day, made some silly videos, and people were like, "Oh, this is funny. Let's."
I
Yeah.
think I think we need to start campaigning to get some more TikTok things up Far North Queensland so that you can.
Yes, please.
There needs to be some more events like further up. Like Sydney's great. It's great for me because it's only up the road. But there is like so many more people like yourself that it's a long way to come for like one thing. We need to start spreading the
Oh,
love.
but also I've never been invited. So not a single event, not a single event. I have never been invited to a single event.
TikTok, if you're watching this, I don't know if you know this girl, but she's a big deal. Can we work on that? I'm going to send someone an email about that because that's horseshit.
But I
We're
also
going to
think
fix
an
that.
event up in North Queensland would do really well because there's people up here who love TikTok and we often miss out on all the fun things. So it would be lovely to get some stuff up here that people down south get to enjoy. It'd be awesome. We'd have to do it in the middle of winter though because everyone else would be like, oh, this is awful.
Yeah, and that's hot as balls. I'm not. I don't sweat pretty. I couldn't do that.
I get asked really often like how do you wear dresses? Like do you not get chafed? Do you not get my answer to that question is I think I have bullied my thighs into just dealing with it. Because I'm not going to put a pair of bike shorts on under my dress. It's too damn hot. I don't want talcum powder because that just turns to pancake batter. You just have to suck it up. You're going to rub together, be friends.
That's right. We don't want to be swampy down there. We've got to just work with it. Yeah. So talking about when you said about your video and all of a sudden you got all these followers and everything from it, what's a video that sticks in your mind that's something that went like viral that you were like, why did that go viral? Or what your favorite thing that went viral?
Well, the first ever one I had that really took off, and I was like, oh, okay. I was sitting in my car getting ready to go into work one day, and I'd literally checked my phone and gotten a text message from someone who I hadn't spoken to in a really long time. And it just put me in the foulest mood. And I was like, oh, this will make a good TikTok. And I sat there in front of and you'll probably remember it when you hear it. And I went, I feel like being a bitch today.
That went everywhere. So many
Yeah,
people
and
use
it
that.
was crazy because all these people overseas were using my sound, and suddenly every time I opened a new video, it was me going. So like that first sniff in the video was like constant. I was like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. I'm sick of hearing myself sniff. Like, get a tissue, girl. And then there were always just it, and you would probably relate to this. It's never the video that you think is going to take off. Like the one of me, I'm sitting. There are not enough crystals in this world that you could shove up. That video. It was like 7:30 in the morning, and I don't even remember why I said it, but I filmed it and posted it, and I logged off from TikTok for the day, and I came back on, and I was like, that video's had like several million views. What is going on? What is this? And it's never the one you think. And then there's the one where I was joking about my friend who is who was going through a days through Tinder. She didn't like she used one. You know how you make code names for the boys? So she's like, oh, Josh this. And I was like, which one's Josh? Is Josh
I
Nav
know
guy,
what
or is that dead grandma guy, or is it skinny jeans? But I don't know who Josh is.
the
And
guy.
again, that was just a video I made one day. Like, no effort involved. But if I were to film something and plan it and like whatever, they don't work. I've tried to do skits. Like I went through a phase of like, because I really enjoy making comedy content. And when I would plan it and film it and edit it and do different like costumes to whatever, it would flop.
Mm.
And I was like, they want me, my dirty fan in the background and my grubby kitchen.
That's relatable. That's relatable. People love you because of how relatable you are, and that's why I think a lot of your videos and your comedy skits and all your stuff that you do, you talk about like real life stuff. You're not someone who is pretending to be someone they're not. You're literally this. This is me, fucking balls and all. Like it's just. I am who I am, take it or leave it, and people relate to that, and it's refreshing.
Well, someone actually said to me once after meeting me, they're like, oh, you're just like what I see on TikTok. And I was like, I don't know how to be anyone else.
Yeah.
Because it feels like a weird compliment because it's like, well, yeah, that of course I'm just myself because I'm not a great actor. My high school musical production team would tell you that I'm a pretty crap actor. Um, and again, I think it's just that kind of dark, cheeky sense of humor and being able to take the piss out of yourself. I think, when I talked about toilet training and stepping in a fresh turd, like I think a lot of people can relate to the harrows of trying to get a toddler to sit on the toilet. But also doing it in a way that wasn't like shaming my child or using my child for content. It'd be like, yeah, I really enjoy just sort of being like, hopefully I'm not the only one dealing with this absolute horror show that is parenting. Like having to waffle stomp turds down the toilet, like the shower drain, because of kids. Like,
No, and that's the thing, and it's stuff that people go, I thought that was just me. I thought I was the only one that went through that. I thought I was the only one experiencing that, and it's just making everybody feel like, oh, I'm not alone. Like,
yeah, and I think a big part of it as well is I don't know about yourself, but when I became a mother, I felt like I was doing something wrong because every time I jumped onto social media, all I saw were babies that were sleeping through the night and babies that were gaining 500 grams a week, and you know, families that would have a 4-day-old baby, but they're all dressed up and they look fabulous and they're out at a wedding and the baby slept through the ceremony. And I had this kid that just screamed if he wasn't attached to my chest. He never slept. He never fucking slept. He didn't sleep through the night till he was 2.5. And I thought I was doing something to cause that.
yeah.
And then I had another kid and I did everything exactly the same with the second kid and he sleeps and the other one didn't. And I was like, oh, I wasn't a crap mum. I had a crap baby. Okay, that's better. But
It was him, not me.
when I logged onto social media, I felt so much like I was doing something wrong. Like, what am I doing wrong? That my life doesn't look like that. You're like, what? How are you all wearing cream? My baby did an explosive shit all over the first white dress I even thought about wearing. How is this possible? Um, and then the more I started talking about it and going, well, sometimes this really sucks. Like, I love my children, absolutely. Of course we do. Sometimes it's just a bit hard and it's a bit crap and you're in the trenches and you haven't had a proper shower. You've been doing the FIFO shower because the second that water's turned on, someone's screaming for you. And it was just refreshing when I would say, oh my God, I'm having a hard time. And everyone would be like, me too, sister girl, we're right there with you. And I'll be like, good, okay, cool. It's not just me. It's not just my kids. It's everyone. We're all struggling. It's just that I'm not hiding. I'm not hiding behind, edited photos and any of that. I'm just like, yeah, there's still a handprint on our toilet door because I actually don't want to paint over it because it was when Carter was about 18 months old and it's kind of cute. There's pen marks on my wall. Our couch has seen better days. It was grey once.
Well, see, you've got a different experience than I do. So, like, Sam being 16, I had him in 2007. So that was at sort of, Facebook hadn't been around that long. There wasn't a lot going on. Like, social media for you today as a mum, the things that you can experience, I didn't have that. I remember having like the photo competition, and it went in the newspaper. Like, that's how old I am. Like, there wasn't you upload to the website and everyone clicks and votes which one they like. You would actually have to, like, you'd go and the photo would be taken, it'd be printed in the paper and people would, send in which one, you'd fill out the form and post it off which one you liked or you emailed off or whatever. Like, that was my era. So I didn't have that, am I doing it right or not? I didn't have anyone to bounce that off except my mum or but I was the first one in my friends group. I just turned 22 when I had Sam, so a lot of our friends didn't have kids, so Joe and I were sort of the first, and he was 19 when we had Sam, so the two of us were sort of kids ourselves, trying to navigate it through and hoping that our parents knew what was going on so that we could bounce things off them. So yeah, I had a very, very different experience. I don't know whether or not it was better or worse not having the social media. I think there's a lot of Sam as he's younger, a lot of his sort of, even just with phones. Like, I've got video of Sam, like, I took on like this little camera about this big, and it's just, the footage isn't great because that was before iPhones, so there's a lot of
pink Canon.
Yes, it was a red one that I had. Yes, but that was what I used to film everything on because you didn't have these phones. Like, I would have been able to capture so much more of him when he was little if I was able to have this. So I sort of envy this era a little bit because I didn't have that. So there's a lot of
and like, I can lose my phone and it's all still there.
Yeah.
And like, I love that. I do love how many photos because I know that I do wish there were less photos of me with my kids that weren't selfies, but at least those photos exist because I can just grab my phone and snap a selfie and that photo's there. So, heaven forbid if something happened to me while my children are still young, they have some memories of me with them.
Yeah.
Mm.
it's crazy. It's just goes to show, I suppose, it's things that you just kind of take for granted, that you just have access to that and it's just here and you can document that. But I mean, I guess the thing is to remember to back it up or upload it to somewhere where you can download it later, where you don't lose all your information. And that's the
Yeah.
other thing. So yeah.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about mental health is very big with social media, and
Yeah.
I don't want to spend too much time on this because I could talk about mental health forever. But I want to know, when something does really well, we've got the positive aspect of it and how good that makes us feel. But then you've also
Yeah.
got when, and I know you experienced this not that long ago, when you had a video and there was this woman from America, I think, who just completely went like nuts with it. And there was a whole lot of dark shit that followed that for you. Like, how do you counteract that, I suppose? And how do you deal with the negativity that social
Mhm.
media can be a dark cloud over us sometimes?
I'll admit straight up that if I open my phone and that TikTok app says 999 plus, there's always a sinking feeling
Yeah.
because you think, I've never had a video go viral that didn't come with some negatives. Sometimes it's very minimal and it's just like people having a go at me because I'm an Aussie and I swear, or the usual like troll, like faceless troll accounts that'll just say the most random stuff just to try and get a rise out of you. Like that stuff I can turn off now because I know that for the most part they're people who have built their account on being trolls. Like, so I can let that stuff go. Yeah, that recent incident was so bizarre to me
It
because
was
it was,
strange. Like,
yeah, so
what
this woman was like an
yeah.
evangelical Christian over in America,
Right.
and she markets herself as a trauma coach. Trauma
Right.
coaching 101 is you don't use your trauma to bully other people. So I would dare say her qualifications might be null and void or non-existent. She often, like, she titled herself a, what was the word, the term she used? Betrayal survivor, because she had caught her husband watching those videos.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay. Well, like, if that's a boundary in your relationship, that's got nothing to do with me. And if that's a boundary you guys have set up and your partner has crossed that boundary, absolutely, you have every right to be upset because you guys, as informed, educated adults, made that decision to have that boundary. And that's fine. Like, their relationship's none of my business. She decided that because my husband and my relationship had different boundaries, which included us being able to consume those videos, because we both do, she decided that that meant that our relationship was built on a foundation of lies and that we cheat on each other with strangers on the internet. And when I was like, oh, you've really got it mixed up here. There's a lot you're saying about my husband and I without knowing us. And like, I was in her comments saying, oh, you've really got this wrong. Like, we can have a discussion about this because you've made a lot of assumptions that are just missing the mark completely. And she would just delete my comments, delete my comments, delete my comments. And I was like, well, you're not even trying to engage in a conversation with me. You're doing all the talking. So then I was like, you know what? Not worth my time. Block, move on. And after I had blocked her, she went on to make a further 6 or 7 videos about me.
Well, shoot, let it
And
go,
again, I
mate.
switched off from
Jesus.
social media because I went, well, this is too much. I don't want to have anything to do with this. I'm switching off for the day. See you later. Because I made one video that I thought would be the end of it, where I always said, you know, my video took the attention of people on the conservative side of TikTok, and you know, I don't want to be a part of this discussion, so I'm tuning out. Then again, I woke up and I had this bevy of her followers that were just saying the most god awful things about Hayden and I. Um, and then I just kept deleting them, and I was like, I'm not going to respond to these comments. I'm not going to give them the platform that they so desperately want. I'm going to delete, I'm going to block, I'm going to move on. So then I just kept I kept deleting and blocking so many people that it was amazing that I even had a For You page by the end of it, because I had blocked so many bloody people. And I still get some people coming into that original video saying things, and I will just not engage, move on. But yeah, after she basically got called out for, because as soon as her videos were gaining traction, people were like, hey, you're actually being really uncool. This person has already addressed it. They have never named you, but you're naming her in every single one of your videos. And yet when you're being held accountable for your actions, you're crying that you're being bullied. And at the end of the day, I said to her, like, you're not being bullied. You picked a fight that you couldn't win. And now you want to play the victim because it's not working in your favor and people are holding you accountable for some pretty crappy actions. Because even people whose relationship was different to mine and Hayden's, who were like, well, we don't like having that in our relationship, but that doesn't give her a right to make 8 videos about you.
Just like let it go. Like if you're
Yeah, and then like her final video, my God, she started with, it was meant to be an apology. It was not an apology. She started with that she never meant to hurt me. She just wanted me to see things from her side. And I was like, mate, you accused us of being human traffickers. What part of that was, yeah, what part of that was not intended to harm us? Because that's pretty a harmful thing to say. And I hope you stretched before you made that leap, honey, because I bet you tore a hammy. And then one of my friends, God bless him, because I stopped going to this woman's page. I was like, I'm not giving her the follows. I'm not giving her the views. I'm not giving her the engagement. One of my friends couldn't help themselves. And I'm so grateful because I still like getting the tea every now and again. She made a 10-minute video, maybe 2 days before she started attacking me. And in that 10-minute video, she went off her nut about her relationship and how her relationship was nobody's business. And I was like, hello, pot. My name is Kettle. What's going on?
Wow.
Yeah. And one of the things that I've made a promise to myself is that whenever I can, try to monetize that moment. And that's where the corn farmer's shirt came about.
That's where I was going to lead into the fact that you have something that's a negative, but able to turn it into a positive. And that shirt, can I just say, has the fucking cutest logo. Like the hair.
It's so cute.
It's amazing.
Poor Hayden. Like my graphic designer, when I reached out to her, I was like, hey, I've got this idea. She's like, yeah, what's wrong? And I'm like, so you know that really cute cartoon you did of me? She's like, yeah. I was like, well, can you put me in bondage wear? And she's like, where is this going? I was like, and then can I be straddling some corn? She's like, what have I missed? She rings me. She's like, are you okay? Have you lost the plot? And I explained to her what was going on. And she's like, oh my God, girl, I have got you. This is the best thing ever. Let's do it. So yeah, that's where the corn farmers came from. And I absolutely love it.
The fucking cutest. But I will say, and I want to get into your online shop, but your sizing and the way that you've made sure that you are so inclusive of so many different sizes is beautiful, because fuck me, how hard is it to try and get, like, I'm a bit of a plus size lady, and trust me, it can be very hard to go into some shops and get something that isn't for, someone smaller than me. And there's all the variety of it, so the fact that you make sure that you look after everybody is commendable.
Yeah, well, it came from, so I have friends who are plus size, and they said to me, and this was when I think I stocked up to a men's 3XL, and in my brain I was like, okay, well, that's the biggest size that shirt goes to, so that's what I can stock. And my friend was like, oh, well, I can't buy your stuff and I really want to support your business. And I was like, okay, so how do I fix this? So it took a bit of research and actually like just pestering the brands. So AS Color didn't stock anything past a men's 3XL for a significant period of time. And it just got to the point where I was like, I'm going to order a minimum of 60 of those from you every time I do a launch. And I'm planning on doing a launch every month. So that's 60 shirts just from me. And I can't be the only person out there who's screaming for those bigger sizes. So it was just literally emailing the head office of AS Color, who are probably like, who is this bitch? Who is she? And I'm obviously there being the entitled influencer going, don't you know who I am? But I then obviously then moved into the pajamas, and because I get those manufactured, and when I was sizing up the sizing that I want to go to, I was explaining that, like, especially the 90s. So the 90s are designed to be oversized. So the new 90s that are coming, I always put myself as a 2XL, a ladies 2XL in the middle, because that's, I think, roughly what I am. And then I size up and down either way. And I said I wanted to go up to a 9XL. So I'm a 2XL and I want to go all the way to a 9XL. But my 90 is a size so that a 9XL should fit someone who is a 10 or an 11XL with the way that I've done the sizing. And I actually had to fight with manufacturers because like they're like, that's going to cost too much to make. And I was like, okay, so charge me what it costs to make them and I will absorb that price over the cost. And they're like, well, you're going to have to charge your customers more for the bigger sizes. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. It just means I make a smaller profit on the bigger sizes, and so be it. So knowing that having that conversation was that easy, I get so mad now as a manufacturer, as someone who's been through the manufacturing process. I get mad at companies that won't do that because it's really not that hard.
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly right. And I mean, and this is the thing, there are a lot of stores and a lot of companies that aren't allowing for that. And it's just sort of
Yeah.
like there's a customer base there that you're not paying attention to. Like,
Yeah.
we're just as worthy as anyone else. Like,
Yeah. Before having Carter, I actually worked at City Beach. And before having Carter, I think I was about a 12 to 14-ish size. And I remember even then, like I wouldn't have considered that plus size.
yep.
But I couldn't wear the majority of what we stocked at City Beach. And I remember having that conversation of like, have you ever considered that like just because someone is a 16 or an 18 or a 26 or a 30, that doesn't mean they don't want to wear that cute crop top. That doesn't mean they don't want to wear those cute shorts. Like, it's fucking hot outside. Let us wear shorts.
Yeah.
Like, and I remember straight to my face, the head of buying just said, well, we don't want that market. And I was like, what? We don't want those people to be advertising our store.
That's
We
just
want to sell this and we want to sell that. And I was like, well,
ew.
that's icky.
Yeah, very much so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
shitty. So tell me, with your online store and everything, how did you get to? Because you were working full time, girlfriend, and then now you're this fucking fabulous entrepreneur. Like, how did you like that? That's a big jump to take. That would have been a big risk.
Um, I was forced to make that decision before I was really ready.
Okay.
So I don't know if you remember, but I launched my first line of merch back in 2020. And truthfully, 2020 hindsight, if I'd had the opportunity or the money to have doubled that original order, I think it would have, because it sold out in 20 minutes.
That was the glasses, the pink with the glasses and
Yeah,
the,
that
and the
original
rose
logo.
skin.
And I
That was
think if I'd been
gorgeous.
able to capitalize on that moment, and again, 2020 hindsight, but I'd maxed out our credit card to do that. So if it hadn't gone well, I was up shit creek. Like, so I needed it to do well. And thankfully it did, and my community came through for me. And for the most part, up until it was towards the end of 2021 that I started looking at like, well, I think I want to design something that someone could wear and get the reference even if they had no idea who I was.
Yep.
Because up until that point, it had been merch. It had been something with my face on it that was like, you kind of had to know who I was to understand why that glasses logo, like I wouldn't imagine anyone would be buying that logo unless they understood who I was. So I was cornering myself in the corner of the market. And I knew that if I really wanted to make a go of this, I was going to have to branch out a little bit. So while I was on maternity leave with Charlie, before I had him, I sat down and I went through videos and sounds of mine that had done really, really well. And I was like, well, that would be a cool t-shirt. And truthfully, I got a lot of support from bigger businesses than me. So there's a company called Charm Offensive Tees. Grey Lines Australia were
Great
really
lines.
helpful.
They're
Yeah.
really, yeah.
And there was no gatekeeping. So those people were like, hey, we buy a license for a font. Because I was like, well, how do you guys make your own fonts? And then Charm Offensive Tea said, well, no, you can actually buy them. There's websites you can access online and you can buy someone's font that they have designed and you just pay for the license to be able to use it. You might pay a couple of $100s for a license, but that means you can use that font and you're not going to get sued for using, because if I were to go and print a bunch of stuff on a shirt and use just whatever Microsoft fonts, I'm
Yep.
actually in breach of copyright and I could get sued. So
Yeah, right.
yeah, so you've got to buy those fonts and have the right licensing in place to be able to use them. And it's funny because I can't use any of those fonts on my website because I don't have a web hit license. I've literally just got an apparel manufacturing license on them, and they're different. Yeah. So I've had to learn all this stuff about copyright law and licensing and things like that. And again, other businesses gave me that information because they were like, we don't want you to get stung with a lawsuit. Like, obviously you're a mum with a young family, that's the last thing you need. So I started looking at creating some designs, and I was like, all right. And one of them was that sound of I feel like being a bitch today. And then at the time, everyone was like, oh, we just love that in every video you say the C-bomb. And I was like, yeah, it's kind of a, just get peppered into a conversation in Townsville. It's really not considered a swear word that much here. And I was like, okay, well, I could do that, but I'm going to put my logo instead of the U. So that was something I thought of doing. And then that video, there was a video I did where I talked about malicious compliance. There was an awful customer on Christmas Eve, and she got her comeuppance because I was petty, and everyone was just like, always take the petty route. Ashley's the queen of petty. And, you know, so I was like, stay petty. That's always going to be my reference. Always take the petty route. And that's where stay petty came from. So I was like, I'm just going to do those 3 designs. Yeah. And I was like, oh, well, I'll see how I go on maternity leave, because I know that a new baby's coming in and I'm going to be busy. And then Charlie was only a couple of months old. And I was like, I think I can do it. I think I can take the plunge and get some orders, like get an order in. So I did an order for those shirts, and they did really, really well. And I was like, well, that's awesome. And so I started just sort of playing with doing more designs, and I think I did 2 or 3 releases. And then one day I got a phone call from my supervisor at work, and she was asking, and this was the first they'd contacted me since I'd gone on maternity leave. So that should have been my red flag number 1. And I got invited to come for an interview to discuss my social media.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, that's interesting, because, you know, I work in HR. I know that I'm not in breach of any contracts because I literally helped write the fucking policies. So they basically gave me the ultimatum of choose, you can come back, but you will have to shut down all of your social media.
Bullshit.
All of it. Yep. And then they wanted me to shut down my store because I sold things that had swear words on them. And I was like, well, that seems a bit harsh given that I'm not doing anything to bring the company into disrepute, because I had never mentioned in the, I think it was almost 2 years that I worked there, I'd never mentioned where I worked, who I worked for. All I ever would say is that I work in HR. So I was like, I don't know how you think I'm bringing the company into disrepute when I've never said where I work. I've never filmed on the premises. I've never disclosed any of that information. So that's a bit of a stretch. I actually had to get lawyers involved.
Really?
To save my job. And I did that. And then I was like, well, I don't actually want to go back. Like, I don't want to go back to a workplace where my every move is being watched, because they had trawled through videos as far back as 2020. And literally any video where I had even said the word shit, they were like screenshotting and using that as evidence of me being inappropriate, and, you know, and that I was breaching something. And I was like, you guys are really, really out to get me. This feels really personal. Like, this doesn't feel like a, hey, we've seen what you're posting and it'd be a really good idea if you didn't post that. Could you take that down or something? It was not like that. It just came out of nowhere. And this came from the same people who would say something like, oh, you should film a TikTok about blah, blah, blah. And I'd be like, oh, no, I don't film TikToks at work. So they were very much aware of what I was doing, but they waited until a month before I was due to come back from maternity leave. And I remember sitting with Hayden, and I had just forked out about $8,000 in lawyers' fees so that I could quit instead of getting fired. And I was just like, I should have just let him fire me. I could just save myself the $8,000. Yeah, I sat and I spoke to Hayden.
I can't.
And
that's bullshit. I don't blame you.
It was awful. It was really awful. But I think honestly, the push I needed. Because I was like, this is the figures for the business, and this is what our business is doing. And I really do think that I can make a go of this, and I can push this, and I can make this happen. And I want you to have faith in me that I can do this. And he was like, babe, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I think you could do it. And so then I wrote my resignation letter. In fact, I was actually a bit of a dick about it. I told them that I wouldn't be returning because they had repudiated my contract by asking me to submit to an unlawful request, because it's unlawful to expect me to just not have social media.
That's right. And particularly when it's nothing, like, for them just to, especially at the end of your like maternity leave. Like clearly they were just pushing that they didn't want you to come back,
Yeah,
and they
yeah,
knew
that's
that you were
exactly
going
what
to
it was.
choose this over that.
Yeah.
Like they're just trying to
And
get
the
out of it
irony
cheap
of it
without
all was that they
paying
could have
it.
saved themselves the headache, because I had already started talking to Hayden about, I think I want to extend my maternity leave another year and
Yep.
then really push for the business so that I've got it there to fall back on if it all falls on its ass. But let me try and push this for a year and see how we go. And he was like, okay, well, if they're going to extend your maternity leave, let's do it. And I'm like, well, heaps of people have done it, so I don't see why they would reject me if they haven't rejected everybody else. So I was literally about to write that email when I got the phone call.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know whether they sensed it and they were like, oh, we'll just give her the push out the door. There was a lot of political stuff happening within the organization where I worked at the time. And I, you know me, if I don't feel right about something, I'll speak up about it. And obviously when politics become part of the workplace and you're the person going, that's not right, you're usually the first one to get pushed out if you rock the apple cart. So, I had been really good friends with the previous HR manager, and she was pushed out really horribly. She was treated awfully. And I was the one going, this doesn't feel right. Like,
Yeah.
this doesn't feel good. And so then, because I'd aligned myself with her, they were like, well, you can go too.
Wow.
Yeah. And like, again, that's why I got lawyers involved, because I could set, it was not about the social media. It was about me and them wanting me gone. And so I got a lawyer involved, and basically we came to a precipice where the lawyers said, okay, well, we could take this to court because I genuinely think you have a case. However, the organisation that you're going up against have very deep pockets, and you might win, but they will bankrupt you first.
Oh, Jesus. That's so
Yeah. And
unfair,
it
isn't it?
basically came down to, how much does the principal cost you?
Oh, I hate that. That sucks.
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't be that expensive to go and defend yourself. Like, that's
No.
fucking bullshit, isn't it?
Yeah. But you know what?
Sorry.
If I had just let them sack me first, I would have had an unfair dismissal case. And again, 2020 hindsight, I should have just let them sack me and I would have been all right. But yeah, it had already cost me 8 grand at that point, and I hadn't even gone to court.
Yeah.
So, and like that 8 grand was literally just letters, was
Yeah.
them writing letters, reviewing all the evidence and putting together. And like, I've still got the letters and I love reading them every now and again because they put those bitches in their place so good. And I have this really amazing response letter that they wrote to me where they basically had to say, yep, we actually can't dismiss you because we have not adhered to our own performance managed policy, and therefore we couldn't have dismissed you based on that information. I was like, yeah, I know. Like,
I feel like
good luck.
everyone
Like,
I knew. Yeah. Where the fuck were
yeah,
you?
yeah. And
Yeah.
it's so funny because, like, again, I was working in HR. And so HR professionals were trying to unlawfully fire someone who worked in HR, and they thought it would work. I was like,
Bless. Bless. Wow.
yeah, between them, they got 20 years of experience and university degrees, but they couldn't even follow their own policies and protocols. And I was like, okay, cool.
You know
Cool.
why? Because people like you are the ones that normally do the work for them. And
No, 100%.
when that person's not there, look at the fucking.
Because
Fuck
we're the
that.
ones who actually read the policy, just turn around and go, oh, actually, you can't sack that person because you haven't done all these steps that you've got to do beforehand.
Wow. Hey, big shout out to Hayden though. I mean, we love a supportive husband and good
Yeah.
for him. And that's beautiful. I have the same with Joe. I'm very lucky. So it's nice to see. That's beautiful. Good on him.
Well, I do have to admit he had a few moments where, and like I love him for being honest with me, but he did have a moment where he's like, what if it doesn't work? What are we going to do? And I think we had just dropped the kids at daycare and we were sitting in the car and he's holding my hand and he's like, I'm just scared. I'm really scared of what the future might look like. And I was like, yeah, yep. And I admitted, like, I wasn't ready to make this leap, to make this my everything. I wanted to sort of try and keep juggling the job and the business on the side to have that safety network. But we've been pushed to a point where it's no longer our decision. And we've been told sink or swim here. And I want to swim. And I hope you're going to swim with me. And he was like, let's do this. And he admitted that he was nervous. And I think I liked that he was able to be honest with me and say, like, this shit feels really scary, because it
Yeah.
felt really nice, because I was scared too, but it felt even better knowing how scared he was,
Felt the
and that
same.
he still was like, I'm gonna stand here with you. And he's one of my biggest cheerleaders. He's so amazing. Like, he's there with all my wins, and he'll he has the Shopify app on his phone. And so if on a launch night, he might be at work and he will like send me a message and be like, well done, babe, really proud of you. And it's just really nice. Like he is my fiercest supporter and I can't ever ignore that.
No, absolutely. That's beautiful. Oh, we love to see that. That's
We
gorgeous.
do.
So what's his favorite meal? What are you cooking for him? Like what are you cooking for the fam? What is the recipe that you are like super obsessed with at the moment that you just cook
I've been
nonstop?
making dumplings a lot.
Dumplings. I fucking
Yeah.
love dumplings.
I
Do you
love
steam them
dumplings.
or do you like are you a pan fryer? How do you do your
I
dumplings?
love when they're crispy, but I also have this like ridiculous intense fear of something being undercooked. So I will steam them first so that I know they're cooked, and then
Yeah.
I pan fry them quickly just to crisp up the outsides of them so that they're crispy, but I definitely know that they're cooked.
That's beautiful. Do you like the pork ones? Which ones are you into?
So I've been making a lot of pork and chive, and I did some chicken and chive ones as well. We went through a lot of them, so I've got to make some more.
You make your own, like pinch them and do the whole thing.
Yeah,
Is
it's
it
so easy.
hard?
It's actually like so much easier when I was like, I watched a YouTube tutorial, and when I saw how easy it was, I was like, oh, like, why have I been putting this on for so long? So I just like started folding them myself, and I was like, it was really therapeutic to sit there because if you use like a half a kilo of mince, you'll get like 40 dumplings out of that because
Yeah,
it just
wow.
goes so far. So I had them, I would freeze them on their flat tray, like on a cookie sheet, and then once they were frozen, I dump it all into a big Ziploc bag. So I had these big Ziploc bags full of chicken dumplings or pork dumplings, and then I just steam them up when I want them.
Love it.
But we've eaten through those pretty damn quick. But I'm a freezer stocker.
Yeah.
So because of Hayden's shift working, having two kids and a business, it's so easy. I don't ever crave fast food, but if I've had a shit day and I don't know what's for dinner, it's so easy to just be like, oh, on the way home from the daycare run, I could just swing through Macca's or I could just swing through Hungry Jack's. And like at the time you think it's a good idea and then you eat it and like as someone who's lactose intolerant and all that stuff has cheese on it, it's never a fun time.
No.
It's awful. But I do it. Like obviously I do it. So
Yeah.
I just said like it's not a weight loss thing. It's not about like food shaming or anything. It's just that food doesn't agree with my body and I have to stop eating it because it doesn't feel good. No one has a good time. We're fighting over the toilet because all of us really shouldn't be eating that much cheese. And like Hayden and I are really strict budgeters as well. And fast food used to be a cheap option and it's not anymore. So
Mm.
for us, it's like I don't want to spend that money on food that's just gonna upset my stomach anyway. So every time I cook when Hayden's home, I will make so yesterday I made satay chicken and I made enough for another 3 meals on top of having dinner last night.
Yeah, nice. And
Yeah.
then you
Or I'll
freeze that
cook
in.
lasagna and I cook so much lasagna that I'm freezing another eight portions of it to go into the freezer. So that means on those night shifts or even on when Hayden's on a day shift and I've just had a kind of a day, I
Mm.
know I don't have to think about what to cook. I can go to the freezer and be like, right, cool, apricot chicken we're having tonight. That's there, ready to go. Let's go. So I did apricot chicken today actually, and I've got I did a bunch of single meals for Hayden to take to work, so he's not eating junk food on a night shift.
Yep.
And the single meals are good too because I know I don't have to portion it out. I can chuck it straight in the microwave, heat it up, and that's my dinner sorted. And I can eat it while I'm watching the boys have their bath, something like that. Yeah.
So microwaving's your favorite defrosting? Like that's and you've just got whatever containers and you just throw in the dishwasher or wash them up when you're done, like and just reuse again.
I
Like
use those like Chinese containers and I reuse them. And Hayden always jokes. He's like, why are you washing plastic? Like, they're meant to be disposable. And I'm like, they're reusable. We can use them again.
I get these ones from Costco, and they're a bigger one than just like your normal Chinese one, and they've got like a really good lid, and they're meant to be like single use. I reckon I've got so many of them in the cupboard. I just wash them and use them again. They're just so good and they're so sturdy. I love them. They're so
Yeah,
good.
they last for ages. And
Yeah,
like, I'll find it sort of, so this week, I think I've done 6 or 7 bulk cook-ups. And so now I won't have to do that for the next couple of months. So we always write the dates on things and
yeah,
in 3 or 4 months later it'll all be gone. We've got a deep chest freezer though. So
yeah.
like I know that if you've just got a normal freezer, it doesn't freeze as cold. so it doesn't last as long. But we've got a chest freezer,
Right.
so everything stays in that, which keeps it colder longer, which means you do get a little bit more out of it. But like, I get to a point after like 3-4 months where I'm like, I'm not testing the waters with that container. But we do buy the good quality containers that are sealed properly so they don't get freezer burn and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I love reusing those containers, and also like, why would you? Because they're actually quite expensive.
They are.
Yeah,
They are.
why am I putting them in the bin? It just means if you do break one and you snap it and you drop it or whatever, you don't feel gutted because you haven't broken like your $10. I don't even think it's that much, but you haven't broken a $10 container. You can go, okay, we'll chuck that in the bin. I fucked it. Or if you leave it at work and someone throws it out, you're not upset that they've thrown out your Tupperware. It's a container that can be thrown out. It doesn't mean it has to be thrown out after one use.
Exactly.
I feel like I'm turning into my mum.
I've never made dumplings. You're inspiring. I'm gonna have to make them. I just find I don't have always a lot of time, like, because I'm still working full time and I don't want to. And I'm trying to give it up. So I'll get there one day. But I sometimes don't get home till 5:30, 6 o'clock. And I try to be organized the day before. But we've got a big chest freezer too, but we'll buy like one of our friends might be like doing a sheep or a cow or something, so we might go halves. So I've got all this meat in the freezer, not so much room to be able to put like pre-cooked
Yeah,
meals and stuff in, which I would love to do. But yeah, we've always got like meat on standby. I've just got to remember to get it out of the freezer and throw it in the fridge before I
yeah.
go. I'll have something to cook when I get home.
See, we don't do the bulk meat like that. However, we have started hitting up the local IGA because
Yep.
we have found that the IGA meat department near us does better deals than Coles and Woolies a lot. So if you're prepared, and because I put myself through uni working in a butcher shop, so
Right.
I can get a whole rump, and I know how to slice that myself. So I'll go on and like I might get a whole rump, and that'll do 3 or 4 different slow cooker stews. But I will cut a couple of steaks for us, and do a couple of stir fries with it. It's yeah, I think if you're prepared to bulk cook a
Yep.
bunch of different meals, because like as I said, this week I did a beef and red wine stew. I did a beef stroganoff. I did satay chicken, apricot chicken, pork dumplings, chicken dumplings, and what else did I do? There was something else. Oh, I made up a bunch of like potato bakes. So we had a barbecue and Hayden wanted potato bake with it. And I was like, okay, well, I'll make 3 dishes of potato bake. And so then if we decide to have a barbecue one night, I've got enough of that potato bake in the freezer. I can pull out and defrost that instead of having to make a potato bake from scratch because you're already there. You're already prepping all the veggies. But that there is a lot of work that goes into that. And I've literally got to schedule it. So we have a monthly calendar where we plan our meals for the whole month. And
Yep.
so I will write Hayden's roster on there and I'll be like, all right, well, you're home this day. So on that day, I'm going to have the slow cooker going and I'm going to have the electric fry pan going and the oven going. And we're going to get a whole bunch of stuff cooked up that day.
No.
And then we might not have to cook for the next 2 weeks because we've done so much cooking.
Yeah, right. I have a
Yeah.
question. With potato bake, I've never frozen that before. Like, how do you like put the cream on and however you're making it and then sort of assemble it and then just throw cheese on it once it's defrosted and talk to me about that
So
because I find that
I
interesting.
will always freeze them in single serves. So with the
Okay.
potato bake, I will cook it without the cheese
Yep.
and I will just make sure all the potato and the cream and everything's cooked, and then I will portion out enough for 2 people in one dish because our kids won't really fucking eat it. Or if they
Yep.
do, they have a couple of mouthfuls. So I portion out enough for me and Hayden into one dish. And then when it's time to cook a potato bake, I literally just flip it out into a little Pyrex dish, sprinkle the cheese on top, and let it do its thing.
I love that. I've actually
Yeah.
never tried that, so I'm gonna have to give that a go because I sometimes I have some left over, and I've actually found now that I did. We actually had potato bake last night with some steak, and I now cook it and then add the cheese in the last 10 minutes because I used to always like put all together cheese, everything, throw it in, and then by the end
Yeah.
of it, your cheese is that fucking brown, and so I
Or
now
your
add the
cheese is
cheese.
done and then you bite into it and half your potatoes still raw. Yeah, that was a lesson I've had to learn, even with lasagna, cooking it like wrapped in tin foil to get it cooked first, and then like for the last 10 minutes putting your cheese on to make sure it's definitely cooked all the way through, but you don't want that cheese to be gross.
Yes, yes, definitely.
Mm.
Love that. Well, I'm going to ask you one last question, and we might let you go to bed because it's now it's 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 getting
It's only
late.
9 o'clock for me. I'm good. You're the one yawning, girl.
Yeah, it's 10 o'clock here. We live in this social media age, and we were very, I guess, lucky to grow up as teenagers without the added pressures of this. I know that we still obviously we dealt with bullying at school, and there was all the same things that teenagers today deal with, but without this space.
Mm.
If you were a teenager today, your younger self, what is something that you would give that advice to yourself, or something that you would actively do to look after you in this space?
I will say, I think the bullying now is worse for kids only because it happens at the schoolyard, and then they go home, and then they can't get away from the bullies because the bullies follow them on social media. And I've having worked at City Beach, I obviously worked with some younger people, and some of the things I have seen young boys and girls do to each other. And I think, and we all know as adults, we know that hurt people hurt people. But if you're a 14-year-old girl and you've got 6 or 7 other 14-year-old boys and girls saying the most awful things about you online and doing horrible things to you online, you're not going to be thinking, oh, they're just hurt. And you're probably not going to come at it with empathy. You're just going to internalize all that pain and that anger. I think a lot of younger kids, they feel a pressure to add everyone from school onto their Facebooks and their Instagrams and their Snapchat. And I think I'd like to think that if I were a teenager now, I would make a point of having some spaces that are just for my closest friends who I know I can trust and who I know aren't going to be awful to me. Well, I mean, even as an adult, my Snapchat is the one social media that I've never made public because that's my besties. That's my I'm sending you selfies while I'm on the toilet. That's my ugly at 6 a.m., no makeup, hair out looking like Miss Fritz. Like, that's the very, very unedited version of me. And I'm fairly unedited online, but my Snapchat is just a safe place where, like, I can go on my Snapchat and be like, oh my God, I had a video go viral and these and I can have a vent and I know I'm in a safe place. And I think it would be really important to have that conversation with kids these days about, like, we know that there's a pressure to be connected and be online, but it's not always what's best for us. And like you and I would know, sometimes even we have to tell ourselves, put the phone down, go outside, touch grass.
Yeah.
Go,
Scrolling. You're scrolling for this, just for something to do. You get caught in that cycle. Yeah.
my,
I do it all the time.
okay, so like I have a question for you, right?
Yeah.
When you're caught in a doom scroll, what's the video that only ever comes up when you should have gone to bed an hour ago? So everyone's got a video, so there'll be a type of content that'll pop on their feed, and that's when you go, oh, I'm meant to go to bed. For me, there's two. There's the camping ASMR. Have you seen those?
No, I don't think I've come across them.
Exactly. See, you must go to bed at a reasonable hour. So there are these videos of like people overseas setting up campsites, and it's like camping in the rain. I don't like camping. I don't like the outsides.
Are they like the one where they have the car and they park the car?
Yes. So they'll bring the car and they'll have the big pop-up tent. But these aren't, they're not camping. They're glamping. They've bought everything from home except the dog. And sometimes there's the dog too. But I watch those videos will come up and I'm like, okay, you're tired and you need to go to bed. There's this other video, and I think his username is like High Trend, HY Trend. And I don't know which Asian country he's from, but he makes like, it's the same music. It's like, I hear the music in my head and I'm like, go to bed. It goes din 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 din, that music, right? And when I hear that music and I see him and he's got this cabinet, and in this cabinet he has the raw materials to make everything. So he'll get the raw materials and make tofu from scratch. And I watch a video about a man fermenting soybeans and then grinding them down to make soybean curd. And I will watch that video and I'm like, you know what? You were meant to go to bed a little while ago, weren't you? Why are you watching this video?
I know what mine is. They are, I don't know, I don't know whether they're like Chinese, Japanese, but they're these really beautiful Asian women, and it's like, oh, my husband's going to be back in 5 minutes. He's ringing the doorbell, and there's all this shit on the floor, like all the this what is it, like the sunflower seeds and all like the place. She spends 20 minutes cleaning up, but he's walking up the stairs and she's like putting the slippers in the steam thing, and then the phone goes over here and she's putting
Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah.
the fucking
I know,
dumplings in
dude.
the
And like,
steamer.
it's like showing off all the random Amazon gadgets. Yes, yeah, I love those ones. And it'll be something random like they've got a special little sweeper for all the bloody sunflower seeds. Why is it always sunflower seeds?
And they're all over the floor, like, or it's all over, and she's just like, it fucking gets
And
me.
like, have you noticed that like every time they show like her putting her feet in the slippers, it changes to like a man's feet? And it'll be like legs as hairy as Hayden, and it's like that weird little things they do, and it's like,
And I always go to the comments to see if anyone else has seen it, and it's usually the first one, and it's got like a shit ton of likes.
yeah. Some of those videos are better for the comment section than they are for the video themselves. And oh my God. Someone else said something about a 7-year-old coming home and cooking his own meal. I've not seen those ones.
No, I haven't seen that. Oh, the Asian couple eating, yeah, and she goes to like put, I don't know, eggs and all this stuff. All the ones that, I can't do it. She's got the big bowl of food and she's eating it, and it's the slurping and it's the like.
Is it
they
Katrina
eat
Eats
so much.
Kilos?
I don't know, but she eats so much of it, and it's just like, or she sucks this stuff and it's got seedlings in it, and she drinks. I don't know. It's all weird.
Oh,
But
no,
it
no,
gets
that's like the
me.
ASMR ones. Yeah.
I
No,
can't
so
do
I
that.
accidentally found a page and it's a chick called Katrina Eats Kilos, and she's a competitive eater.
Oh wow. Okay.
So she's like 5'2" and like this big. Like she's a pocket rocket. Apparently she's like a power lifter or something. But anyway, so like she'll sit down in front of 7 kilos of meat and she's like, I got 45 minutes to eat this. And she's just powering through this food. And I'm just like, where does it go? But yeah, like for some reason I keep seeing her videos. And recently she did a tour of Australia. So she was going to all these places in Sydney and Melbourne and doing their like eating challenges. And it's like,
Wow.
and my toxic trait is being there like, I could do it. I could do that. I could not do that. Because she's like, she does voiceovers where she explains her technique. And watching her eat is actually quite comical because she will literally, she's not enjoying the food, surely, but she's literally just like, and she will be poking it into her mouth with her fingers. And then she always likes to enjoy a glass of Coke with it because the burp helps her make an air pocket, and then she you know what? Next time I find one of her videos, I'm sending it to you to watch, and then before you know it, you are going to be obsessed with her. You'll be down the rabbit hole of watching her eat like 7 kilos of like, well, she did a wing challenge in Ireland, and it was something like 10 kilos of chicken wings. And she was doing this thing where she's like, and then the chicken bone was empty, and I'm like,
I can't do it.
she's got to be eating all that gristle at the same time because I'm so picky with a chicken wing. I leave far too much on it. Hayden always gets mad at me. But I'm watching the way she eats, and I'm like, she literally has a technique to get as much food into her body without having to chew too much. Because she will say, oh, at this point my jaw was getting tired. And you're like, of course it is. You're eating several kilos of food.
Oh, she has some regular bowel movements. Holy shit.
Oh, she'd be clogging toilets everywhere she goes, mate. There's no way someone can eat that much food and not have like some pretty strong plumbing in place.
Oh, fucking
But I'm 100% going to have to send you one of her videos because, mate, it's fascinating to watch though. Like I'm absolutely so fascinated by it because I even look at her and she'll do it in jeans.
Oh, God.
Like, have we not all sat down to a meal and had to unbutton our jeans? And then I'm like, she does it in jeans.
Nathan says, Ashy, send one my way.
I will. I'll send you one because you're so lovely.
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 Oh,
No,
fucking hell.
yeah, it's Katrina Eats Kilos. Someone was asking what it's called. Katrina Eats Kilos. And when you see her, you'll be amazed that she is so tiny and eats so much. And I think she's either not eating for days and weeks leading up to this, or she's just, I don't know. I don't know, because like she even will say, oh, there's 27,000 calories in this meal, and I'm like, what?
Wow. She got to be barfing it up. She got to be riding the porcelain bus. There's no way.
Well, apparently that's one of the rules with a lot of this competitive eating is that after you've eaten it, you've got to sit there for a set period of time, so you can't. I know. I told you I went down a rabbit hole. I learnt all the lessons about, because I was like, I can do this, but then I realized I could not. Because I'm shocking for my eyes are bigger than my belly.
Hmm.
I'm so bad for it. And like, I'm not eating enough to feed an army. I'm eating enough to feed two people and going, oh, that was a bad move. Like, I'm going to regret that later. But yeah, I've watched the amount she eats. And I guess we don't know. She might be doing one of these challenges once a month and she just posts them all together or something. But I feel like there's a new video from her constantly. And I'm like, how? Where does it go? How do you do it? And she's always got these like fans behind her, like, you can do it. And she gets up and does these enormous burps and everyone's applauding her. And I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, you'll have to watch. I'll try to find you one and send it to you because they're so funny. They're so funny to watch. And then you sort of just get sucked into it.
Well, she's found a niche, that's for sure. Jesus.
Absolutely. And because she's either American or she's Canadian, and like someone will hate me for getting the two accents mixed up, but she's either American or she's Canadian. So that means she's getting monetized for her engagement.
Ah,
Yeah.
checks out.
And that's one of the things I've noticed as an Australian TikToker. People don't understand that we don't get monetized for engagement.
That's
So,
right. Yeah,
mm,
100%. 100%. It's, it kind of sucks. It sucks, but you get it. Like, you kind of, I don't know. It's a bit like, and anyone who's watching now will notice that there's no gifting. Like, I've had that. And that was one thing that when I started this off, I didn't want to do that because from day dot, or not from day dot, because when I didn't know any better and didn't know that you could turn it off, I've always tried to, I guess, I want you to keep the money. I don't, like, I'm doing okay. I appreciate it. And I appreciate that you want to support me. I would rather you have that money in your account and you go and use that for something else. That's how I feel about it. And I know there's a lot of people on here that like to do the battles and that's how they, they make money or whatever, and good for them. You do you, boo, but I'm not a part of that. So yeah, and I think that is the only real way, apart from doing, paid advertising, like what we both do, to sort of, help pay the bills a little bit.
and truthfully, I don't love doing paid content. Because 9 times out of 10, when I get approached by a brand, and I would say I turn down 9 out of 10 of them, because a lot of the time someone will come along and they're like, oh, we love your content and we want you to advertise this thing, and it'll be a product that I would not want to advertise because it goes against my values. Like, I'm very big on body positivity and food neutrality, so why would I advertise a weight loss app? You've obviously not watched my content if you think I would be a perfect fit for that brand. See you later. You haven't done your research. Or there are some companies, and I don't work with them anymore, who have a really long list of demands. And when you go, okay, well, there's a price for that. And then you have a look and they don't want to pay your price. And you go, okay, well, bye. Like, there was a particular brand that wants me to put a link in my bio. And I had to explain to them that, like, having your link in my bio instead of my shop front costs me money, costs me sales. So are you going to reimburse me for those sales? So I could take a screenshot and be like, okay, well, for last month, let's say I averaged $100 a day in sales or $150 a day in sales. Are you going to pay me $150 per day when you want that in there? You already have to pay me for the video and you want to pay me for licensing because you want to use that video later. Are you actually going to pay me to then stop traffic to my website? You're not? Okay, cool. Well, it's not worth my money then. See you later.
So
Nathan's being
Nathan.
cheeky. I love that we both saw that and we were like, bloody Nathan.
For me, I reckon I turn down more than I take, because same thing. I won't ever do something that I don't feel like it aligns with me, or things that at the end of the day, when you're doing something like that, there are people who, who are watching you, and you don't want to be putting something out that you don't 100% agree with. Like, why
Yeah.
would I want to, you know, I'm not going to do that. I don't care how much it is. If it doesn't, like, HelloFresh, like, they're basically at the point where they're like, name your price. And I'm like, it doesn't, I'm not against that mob. I'm not
Mm.
against any of that, but it doesn't align with me because I'm trying to help people cook on a budget. So for
Yeah.
me, I'm trying to help you use what you have at home or what you have in the freezer or all the rest of it. So for me
Mm.
going, oh, hey, let's use HelloFresh, use this code, people are just going to be like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, that's not what you do.
And
So,
like truthfully, and HelloFresh is another one that I used to work with, and recently I've just been like, you know what? It's not really what suits me. Because no shade on HelloFresh, because I genuinely loved the food. I have to admit, like the food was delicious, but it's not quick and easy.
mm,
A lot of their meals take 45 minutes, an hour, and anyone who's got small children knows that 45 minutes to an hour of meal prep every night, it's not sustainable, it's not doable, and it's a pain in the ass. Um, so, and they were the ones who wanted me to put the link in my bio. And when I told them my price for that, like, well, we can't afford it. And I was like, okay, well, that's fine. And then they came back and they're like, oh, well, what if we went up a bit? And I was like, no, you've already said you can't afford that. And
mm,
honestly, I was getting a lot of attitude because it wasn't through them directly. It was through an agency. And the agency was just giving me a lot of attitude. And I was like, if you don't see my value, why would I don't have to fight you for you to see my value. I've already told you that I don't need this brand deal. So see ya, go find someone else who wants it. So yeah.
exactly. Exactly. And they do. And there are so many that lowball you. It's like, oh, I heard this one mob and it's like, oh, well, X amount. And it was like, by the time I actually start spending the time going through and putting a plan together of what I'm going to send to you, that doesn't even cover that. Like, some of
Yeah.
them just have no idea. And I think a lot of places too, I find there's a lot of businesses that are a little bit scared to work with advertising on TikTok. A lot of brands that still won't because they find it's still a little bit foreign territory for them. Like they feel safe on Instagram and they feel safe on, which for us kind of sucks a bit because I know that like our numbers on Instagram are a lot smaller than what we have here. So we have a
Yeah.
bigger reach here. So yeah, that kind of
In
sucks sometimes.
saying that though, I feel like I do much more paid stuff on Instagram than I do on TikTok. And I get good payment for that because my engagement's high, but they are products that I genuinely enjoy using. Like there's one product in particular, Buzz, that I have done a lot of work with. And like I have no shame in saying that they sent me that for free to start with. And I was like, I emailed them and I was like, this vibrator is amazing. Do you, it's real good. Like, love this. Thank you. Thank you very much. So when they're like, hey, could we pay you? And I was like, yeah, because I already love the product. So I had like, and it's not hard to talk about. And like, even someone will say to me, they're like, oh, do you really love it? I'm like, she's replaced all the others on the rotation. Like, if you want to know how much I love this thing, the other day I was having a bad day and Hayden opened and I was in the shower having my like, I need to calm down, need water on my face. And like Hayden opens the shower curtain and hands it to me. I was like, what are you doing? And he's like, well, you bad mood. Here you go, babe. And I was just staring at this thing like, maybe I should give my husband more attention because he actually knows. Well, someone just asked how many I own. Now, I do want to point out that I've never actually had to buy one. I used to have a friend who owned it was called For Her Box, and they were like boxes. So you would
Oh,
buy a
yes.
box and get all these different. Yes, remember? Yes, you got one too.
I had
Um,
a Jennnnaaayy box. There was one that she had that
but
was a
yeah, she
Jennnnaaayy.
did. So she sent me like several boxes before, and like when she decided she was going to shut down that business to focus on her kids, which is great. And
Yep.
that was a choice she made, and she was happy with that decision. But when she decided she was going to shut down, she's like, "Hey, babe, I'm going to send you a bunch. Like, you don't owe me any advertising, but like, oh, I couldn't be asked trying to sell them, so here you go." And I've like most of them are still in their packets, but I have a lot, and it's only because they got gifted to me. But this little, yeah, it's good. It's good.
I
So
love it.
like, and then like, I think a lot of creators will tell you that there are some brands that when you open the email, you get flutters and you're like, oh, they want to work with me. And you go, that's really cool. I
They
think
know
I
who
think
I
I'm really
am.
happy about
They know
that.
I exist. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like if you don't get that excitement when you get reached out to, it's probably a sign you shouldn't take it.
Yeah, totally.
But like I think we can both attest to, I know I for one I'll definitely let brands take advantage of me in the early days just because I didn't know any better. And you and I were both pretty aware that there's not a lot of communication amongst creators of what we should charge. Like, what should I be charging for this? What if I agree to this price? Am I ripping myself off, or should I just be grateful that I'm getting this brand deal? And there was one earring company who, when I was a baby influencer, so like especially on Instagram, I only had like a couple of thousand. And they were sending me free earrings, and I was so excited. Like I was like, oh my God, I'm getting free stuff now. And I was just so excited about it. And I made sort of friends with the owner, and so she would send me a box of goodies, and I would do a little unboxing on TikTok, no less. And I would be like, oh, this is really exciting. Um, she stopped sending me stuff for free after a while because she's like, oh, no. Like, I don't want you to feel pressured to share my stuff. And I thought, cool, she understands. Like, I'm at a position now where I can charge this sort of thing. And then she reached out and wanted me to film an unboxing on TikTok. And she only wanted to pay me $100. And at the time, I was charging $1,000 per TikTok. And I'm going to be really honest to anyone which I charge more than that now. Because I don't necessarily want to do that many. So I would rather charge more and do fewer because I'm going to get brands that I actually want to work with. But also because conversations with other creators, they were like, bitch, you're lowballing yourself. Don't take that low of an amount. You need to go. So she reached out and offered me $100. And I remember saying to Hayden, like, this is a bit of a, like, do I tell her that I actually charge so much more than that? And he was like, oh, she's been sending you stuff since you were a nobody. And I was like, yeah, you're right. And I felt this obligation to just accept it. And I did that unboxing with her back in 2021, and I found out she was still using that video. So I hadn't been paid for licensing, but she was still using that video as recently as a month ago. And I had to be that person who reached out and was like, hey, you never paid me for licensing for that video. And truthfully, the $100 that you paid me for that video was a fraction of what I was charging other people at the time. So could you maybe either pay me for licensing or take the video down? And she did take the video down. Like, I'm like, and she was very apologetic. And, I don't understand how these things work. And I'm really, really sorry. I'm like, that's fine. But I also think she was fobbing me off a little bit because she had approached me and asked for my rates sheet because she was like, I do know that you do more paid content now. So can you send me your rates sheet? And when I sent that through, I got ghosted.
Yeah, right.
So she'd gotten my rates sheet. She knew what I charged and went, well, you know what? I'm not going to pay that. I'm just going to rehash this video that's 2 years old, and I'm just going to boost that on TikTok. And then when I said, hey, this video, you haven't paid for the rights to use that, she backed down and she did the right thing. But it is really hard as a creator to explain what you charge for a video, because a lot of people will be like, oh, we don't understand why you charge so much. And you go, well, you're not just paying for me to film a video, you're actually paying for access to my followers. But even that, you would know, you'll do a video for a brand, and that's not the end of it, because you've then got to you've got to be on top of the comments, and you've got to be like, a lot of brands will actually say to you, it's your responsibility to respond to negative comments in a positive way, or it's your job to let us know what those comments are. Or like, how often have you done a paid thing and like 4 months later you're still getting people going, oh, what was that thing that you did with that thing? So it's never just filming a video. And I think having to explain that to people who don't work in the content creator space, they often, and I think that's where that whole entitled influencer thing comes from, where they think we're just entitled when we put a dollar value on our worth. But it's more than just a video. It's our time going into it. It's the fact that the platforms that we have, that we are able to do paid content for, is the product of literally years of engaging, responding to comments, responding to DMs. Like, I spend so much time on my phone responding to people in the DMs because I actually feel as though if I'm not there and engaging with people who take the time to engage with me, they're not going to keep engaging. And that engagement is what grows my account and makes me and gives me the freedom to have a business that I can have as an online portal. And it puts me in the position to do this. So it is hard to explain it to some people, but I think anyone, once they get in the space and they realize how much work actually does go into doing those paid campaigns, would be like, yeah, nah, I can see why you charge that.
Mine's always a case by case basis. I
Yeah.
don't have a rate sheet. I get asked all the time for a rate sheet, and I'm like, send me through what it is that you're after. Because you can send through a rate sheet for something, and then what they want is like, well, actually, that's worth X amount. So
Yeah.
mine's always a case by case basis. You send me what it is that you are looking for, and I will let you know, one, if I am keen to do it, and two, I'll put through a couple ideas. I had one mob contact me, and I said, yeah, look, I'm interested. This is my rate. And they said, can you send through a couple of ideas? And I sent through a few ideas, and they've ghosted me. I haven't heard from them since. And I'm sort of like, oh, that's interesting.
Have you double checked that they haven't taken your ideas and sold them to someone cheaper?
I haven't seen anything that brand has done. But yeah, I sort of learned a bit of a lesson there, because I sort of thought, next time, that was silly of me. I need them to commit to it, and then I will give you what my ideas are. Whereas I was pretty keen for what it was going to be, and it was going to be sort of something that I, really like. It was a food thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it just didn't. And I guess the excitement got a bit too much for me, and I was just sort of like, oh, I've got so many great ideas.
Oh, and we've all done that.
And then yeah, just obviously the rate was a bit too. But they wanted a couple of videos, and there was all this other stuff they wanted as well. So it was sort of like a yeah, you're right, some of the contract post. It was just, and I hadn't had one for a while, and I was like, oh, this is great. This will be a really good one. But yeah, it was a bit. You live and learn, and I'm still learning about stuff. Like I'm still,
100%.
You sometimes you don't think, oh, and I'll run things past you all the time. I'm like, do you think that's enough? Or do you think I'm charging too much? Or, and then I've sent some things through thinking, oh, maybe I'm a bit dear. And they're like, oh yeah, no worries. And I'm like, oh, I'm probably going to charge more.
Yep. And I think it obviously depends on the brand, but I remember once there was a contract that I got offered, and I said to Hayden, I'm like, I'm really busy this month. I don't know if I want to take it on. And he's like, look, highball them. They'll either say yes or they'll come back with an offer. And then what they come back with, you can make that decision. So I highballed this brand, and it was it was good. It was for this one video, but they wanted it posted to Instagram and to TikTok. And I was like, oh, that's fine. If it's still only the one video I've got to film, that's fine. I have no problem with that. But they were willing to pay more because they wanted a quick turnaround. So like you would know, sometimes with a brand deal, it's weeks from when they first reach out to when you get a contract. So you send them the ideas, they pick one of the ideas that they want to do. You'll then film that, you send it through, they say yes or no, and then you come back and you do whatever edits it is that you need to do for that video, and then you go back again. So yeah, this was, I think I had 5 days to get it done. And I was like, I'm going to be pushing it to do that. So I'm going to highball them and see what happens. And they accepted my offer. And I was like, well, all right.
Yeah, I'm happy to pay for it. I'm happy to come to the party. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and again, it was like, it wasn't that I had a problem with the product, and it's not a brand that I have any particular issue with. And it was somewhere that I shopped, stuff that I could absolutely use, and I am still using now after doing that, or like last year. But at the time, it was just like, it's just going to be a mission for me to do this, and I just want to make it worth my while to stress myself out. So yeah, it does pay off. But then obviously, as you know, there are definitely brands who they're looking for creators who are willing to take less, and that's fine. Like everyone's got a budget. And I won't ever have a go at a brand for not wanting to pay my rates. But I do get a bit pissy when they're the ones approaching me and then they're trying to talk me down. And I'm like, well, no, that's my price. And then they try to like shit on you for having that price. And I'm like, okay, well, let me break it down to you why I charge this. Yeah.
Yeah, they're trying to gaslight you into like, oh, well, I've got other creators that will take this much. Like, that's fantastic. Thank you for reaching out to me. Go talk to
those creators.
Good luck with your campaign. Yep. Have a nice day,
Yep.
So
yeah, I can't count the number of times where they say something like, oh, well, I've got some of your peers who are happy to work for less. And I'm like, okay.
Awesome. Good luck with your campaign. I always say that. I'm always like, good luck with your campaign. Hope it goes well. I always end.
Yeah. absolutely. It's like I'm not gonna sit here and try to fight with you. Like, I don't know you in argument just because you came here to have one. So
Love
I'll
that.
be like, that's my rates. And if you're, and like, I always will say something along the lines of like, it's not up to me to explain the difference between out of your budget and too expensive,
Exactly.
because those two are very different things.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. 100%.
Mm.
Love it. Well, listen, I might call it, I think, because I've got to go to work tomorrow and it's 10:30. And listen, thank you so much for firstly being my very first guest on here. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while. So, and yeah, I wanted it to be with somebody that I knew I could just easily chat with and someone that's just amazing. So thank
Yes,
you for being
I
you.
loved it.
And yeah, it's been fun. And
Well, we
I,
were overdue for a catch up anyway, so this has been really nice.
it was. So yeah, so thank you, and to everyone who's is in here now. 8 o'clock. I'll be making sure it's 8 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Savings Time next week, and I'll be chatting to Big Farmer Andy. So Ashy, thank you for being here. Thank you for being so open with us and sharing a bit more about you. And yeah, we've had some really good numbers tonight with everyone watching, so it's been consistent. So thank you,
Yeah,
and
it's
thank
been
you
really
everyone for
awesome.
being here, and
Thank you for
and
having
for
me. It was really lovely. So,
yeah, no, perfect. And to
and
everybody
I
who
love my cup. Like, my cup is so cute.
thank you. Oh, hi, Jill.
And who is it you've got next weekend?
So I've got Big Farmer Andy next week. And then the week after, we've got Nathan cooking with a curry. So
I'll be watching.
lots to talk about. But I just want to finish off with your Frocktober fundraiser.
Yeah.
Where can
Yeah.
people go if they would like to donate?
So if you jump to the link in my bio, I do have to clean that up because there's still the tickets for the Frocktober event, which is now closed because obviously we had that event on Friday. But I think it's the second link in my bio and it says, help me raise 50K for ovarian cancer. That is the link to donate. And like, for example, we need to make $20,000 to hit that target. If every single one of our followers even did $1, we would absolutely smash that target. So if you've got even a couple of dollars to spare, every single dollar makes a difference. And I don't want someone to think that I don't appreciate $1 as much as I appreciate $100 donations. So every single donation makes a difference to someone who needs it. And that's why I am going to push it just that little bit forward. And like, maybe if you don't like me, maybe do it for that reason because you don't like me enough that you'd like to see me bald. Like, I would have thought just the haters alone would fund that, but hey. They probably can't find the link because I've blocked them, but whatevs.
That's all right. They all create their accounts and come after you anyway, don't they? I feel
Yeah,
that.
yeah, they do. They all do. No one hates more than someone doing less. Just remind yourself of that every single time. So I will, like, my first thing to do whenever I get a hate comment is I always look at their account. And 9 times out of 10, it's a private account. And I'm like, unless you're out here doing as much as me, go away. But also, like, when they do have account content, you look at their page and you look at the things they're posting and you're like, is this someone whose opinion I actually give a shit about?
Yeah.
And I will tell you 99.9% of the time, you're like, no, I don't care about Greg127 from Sydney, who I'm never going to meet in person and who's clearly just a miserable old bag who wants to say nasty things on the internet. So I'm going to move on from that and I'm just going to keep slaying.
If it's not someone you would take advice from, don't listen to the bullshit they bang on about.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So when's the end date for Frocktober? Is it the end of October?
So it's the end of October, but I think they will sneakily leave that link open until I think like the first week of November because a lot of fundraisers will host events in those last few days and weeks. So like often they will leave that page open so we can get those last like lots of fundraising money in. So I think that first week of November, but like I would love to hit that 50 grand by the end of October. And then I would probably host a live event to shave it and get some of my small business friends who've donated amazing amounts of money. Like Sam from Little Patch Creations, she did a live scrunchy lucky dip.
Oh, I love
and that raised over $1,000. My friend Shannon made earrings that match the little party dress print that I did.
Beautiful.
And that was over $2,000 that raised. So like small businesses taking money out of their pockets for such an unworthy cause just honestly deserves such a shout out. So my other earring friend Chantel has made an Ashley Freya. I think they're all sold out now, and that was a couple of $1,000s. And then my other earring friend Kim is doing a live lucky dip sale as well, which I'm going to help her with, and I'm going to draw the raffle prizes for that online raffle on that as well. So yeah, it's been a community effort, and I think it can't go without saying that the amount of money that I have raised is not a single effort. I could not have done this without the people around me who have been cheering me on, sharing the links, like people who haven't been able to afford to, sharing the link in an email to their office and being like, I want to see this bitch bald. Come on, guys, let's give $5 each. There's the local Coles, their manager dressed up in a dress on Friday and they just collected coins from people around the shop all day and they raised a couple of $100 and they donated that. They donated gift cards to our raffles. So even like the local businesses getting behind us, it's been really heartwarming to know that this is not occurring in a vacuum. So,
Yeah. That's
yeah.
fantastic. That's so good. And you're right. And it does take a lot from a small business to donate because that's money straight out of their pocket. Like that's, and it's more noticeable to a small business obviously than a big business. So for them to do that, like hats off. Well done. That's
When I
beautiful.
told Hayden I was donating a percentage of the pajama sale, so like in September, it was $5 from every set of pajamas. But then when I put it together, I was like, you know what? I'm going to double it. I'm going to make it $10 from every set. And then that was $1,300 that I donated. And Hayden was like, how much? And I'm like, I promise it's going to be okay. Like, when these new pajamas launch, it'll make up for it. I promise. And he's like, okay, as long as you've got this covered.
Oh, that's
But yeah,
beautiful.
we just crossed over $30,000. And I'm really excited to see. I think we will see more donations through, but I do want to try and put together another event in Townsville, something a little more low key that maybe doesn't feel as high pressure as like an event that was $100 a ticket and get dressed up and find a babysitter and things like that. So like maybe we'll be able to put something together so the people who missed out on that event can still come and have fun and participate, because I've still got some amazing prizes to raffle off. So I'm going to work on doing something else, but I'm going to have to pull something out of my ass to be magical.
Anyone can do it, it's you.
I
No.
hope so.
Well, anyone who wants to see Ashy bald, I need you to go to her to the link in her bio. Have a look. You'll see the link to where you can go and donate for Frocktober, and let's get that 50K. And like she said, even $1 makes a difference. And I know
Absolutely.
cost of living, it's a lot to ask of people to donate. So, don't feel pressured like you have to. But if you have something and you would like to, that's
Yeah.
a great
And again,
place to
please, like
start.
if it means the difference between, putting some food on the table and please don't, everyone's piece comes first. But if you're not in a position to be able to donate, are you able to share that fundraising link? Because you can copy that link and you can put it on your personal Facebook or put it on your personal page or share it in an email around the office. So yeah, sharing that link if you can't donate might put it in front of someone who's able to do something. Maybe you work for a company where you can walk into the boss's office and be like, hey, do you want a tax deduction? Let's do this. So yeah.
So many good ideas. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you. Thank you for being you. Thank you, everyone, for being here and watching. And yeah, I look forward to seeing what happens. It's going to be
Yeah.
exciting to watch.
Thank you so much for having me. This was so much fun and I absolutely adore you and I can't wait to keep watching what you're doing.
Thanks, beautiful. Back at you. Mwah. Thank you, everybody. Much love. Good night. Look after yourselves. And I will see you all next Sunday, if not
You
before.
certainly will.
Bye.
Bye.